Mom saw wear this skirt but it's too short. I never planned for my life to split into two different versions of myself. On the outside I was just normal. A quiet guy. 24. Working a small remote customer support job from my bedroom, answering strangers with polite sentences while my own thoughts stayed carefully hidden behind a screen. No one looking at me would ever guess the truth. Not my coworkers. Not the neighbors who waved when I picked up groceries. And definitely not Mom, whose voice still carried the same gentle authority it had when I was a child. To her, I was simple, predictable, safe. But secrets don't disappear just because no one asks about them. They grow in silence, slowly, quietly, until one day they become impossible to ignore. It started years ago, so small I almost convinced myself it meant nothing. A piece of soft fabric between my fingers. A strange curiosity while folding laundry. The quiet, electric question that followed. What would it feel like, just once? I told myself it was harmless. Just curiosity. Just a moment. But moments have a way of turning into memories. And memories into needs. By the time I turned 24, the secret had become part of my routine. Carefully hidden inside the safest place I knew. My own room. Our house was small but warm. Old wooden floors that creaked like they were whispering stories. Sunlight that slipped through thin curtains every afternoon. The faint smell of tea that seemed permanently woven into the walls because Mom drank it every evening without fail. Should have felt safe. And in most ways it did. But safety can also feel like a cage when you're hiding something that could shatter everything. Mom trusted me. Completely. That trust was the heaviest thing I carried. Then there was Mia. If Mom represented comfort, Mia represented everything unpredictable. She was bright, fearless, impossible to read. The kind of girl who said exactly what she thought and somehow made honesty sound like music instead of danger. We'd been together for almost a year. Long enough to build routines. Long enough for her to start talking about the future in quiet, hopeful ways that made my chest tighten with both warmth and fear. Because Mia didn't know my secret either. And every time she smiled at me like I was simple and easy to understand, I felt like a lie. That afternoon began like any other ordinary day. Mom had left early to visit my aunt across town. She wouldn't be back until evening, at least that's what she'd said while standing at the door with her purse and soft smile. Don't forget to eat, she reminded me. I nodded like always. Promise like always. Watched the door close like always. And like always, the silence followed. Silence can be peaceful. But sometimes, silence is permission. I sat in my chair for a long time after she left, staring at the blank computer screen, pretending to focus on work tickets I wasn't really reading. Because something else was pulling at my thoughts. Something folded carefully. Hidden where no one would casually look. Waiting. My heartbeat started changing before I even stood up. Slow at first. Then faster. Like my body already knew what my mind was trying not to admit. Not today, I told myself. But the words sounded weak. They always did. The drawer opened with a soft wooden click that felt louder than thunder in the quiet room. Color. Softness. Secrets. My fingers hovered above the fabric without touching it, like the air itself had turned fragile. Every time felt like the first time. Every time felt dangerous. And maybe that danger was part of the truth I didn't want to face. I pulled the skirt out slowly. But simple. Too short. I'd bought it weeks ago during a moment of courage that felt almost unreal now, standing in a self-checkout line, heart racing, convinced everyone somehow knew. I hadn't worn it yet. Some invisible line inside me had always stopped me before this point. But today, the house was empty. The world was quiet. And something inside me was tired of being afraid. Just for a minute, I whispered to no one. The same lie. The same promise. But my hands were already moving. Time changes when you're about to cross a line you can't uncross. Seconds stretch. Breaths feel louder. Every tiny sound feels like a warning from the universe asking, "Are you sure?" I wasn't. But I didn't stop. When the fabric finally brushed against my skin, a strange mix of emotions rushed through me all at once. Warmth, fear, relief, and something deeper I didn't yet have words for. I stood there in the quiet room, heart pounding so hard it almost hurt, staring at the mirror across from my bed like it might reveal a truth I'd spent years avoiding. The reflection looking back at me felt unfamiliar. Not wrong. Not right. Just different. And somehow, honest. For a moment, nothing else existed. No job. No expectations. No versions of me built to keep other people comfortable. Just breath. Fabric. Silence. And the terrifying realization that this secret wasn't fading with time. It was growing stronger. I should have stopped there. Changed back. Folded everything away. Returned to the safe, quiet version of my life where nothing ever truly changed. That would have been the smart choice. The safe choice. The invisible choice. But stories don't begin with safe choices. They begin with the moment everything quietly starts to fall apart. Because what I didn't know, what I couldn't know, was that this ordinary afternoon was only minutes away from becoming the moment that would change my life forever. And somewhere outside the house, a familiar car had already turned onto our street. I didn't hear the car. That's the part that still feels unreal when I think back on it later. How something so loud, so ordinary, could arrive without making a sound inside my world. Because inside my room time had changed. It moved slower. Thicker. Like every second was wrapped in glass. I stood in front of the mirror, unable to look away. The skirt rested high on my thighs, shorter than anything I had ever dared to try before. A dangerous kind of short. The kind that didn't let you pretend anymore. My hands trembled slightly as I smoothed the fabric down, even though there was nothing to fix. A strange warmth spread through my chest. Not happiness exactly. Not fear either. Something in between. Something honest. And honesty was the scariest feeling of all. Just a minute, I whispered again. But the words felt weaker now. Because a minute had already passed. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. I didn't want to check. Checking meant reality. And reality meant stopping. My eyes drifted to the small box hidden behind my books. I shouldn't have looked at it. I knew that. But curiosity is a quiet kind of gravity. Once it pulls, resisting feels impossible. Slowly, like my body was moving without permission, I reached for it. The lid opened with a soft click. A lip gloss. A cheap eyeliner pencil. Nothing dramatic. Nothing professional. Just small pieces of courage collected over months of pretending I would never actually use them. My heartbeat changed again. Faster now. Sharper. This was different from the skirt. The skirt could still be called curiosity. But this felt like crossing into truth. I picked up the gloss first. My fingers shook so badly I almost dropped it. Stop, I murmured. But the word had no strength behind it. As deep down, I didn't want to stop. The mirror felt closer than before even though I hadn't moved. I watched my reflection twist the cap open. Watched my own hesitation. Watched the quiet question in my eyes. Who are you becoming? I didn't know. And somehow, not knowing felt freeing. The gloss touched my lips. A tiny moment. Barely anything. But the sensation exploded through me like electricity. Warm. Soft. Terrifying. My breath caught in my throat. Not because it felt wrong, but because it felt too right. I stepped back from the mirror quickly, heart racing. This was going too far. Too fast. I needed to change back. Right now. For a sound. Faint. Distant. But real. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked at once, like the world had suddenly turned to stone. Silence followed. Heavy. Waiting. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was nothing. Please let it be nothing. Another sound. Close it. A car door shutting. My stomach dropped so violently it felt like falling from a height. No. No. Mom wasn't supposed to be home yet. She said evening. She always stayed for tea. Footsteps outside. The air disappeared from my lungs. For a second I couldn't breathe at all. Panic hit fast, hot and blinding, erasing every calm thought I'd had just moments earlier. I spun toward the bed, searching wildly for my normal clothes. Too slow. Everything felt too slow. Why were my hands shaking this much? Why couldn't I think? The front gate creaked open. A sound I had heard thousands of times. A sound that had never meant danger before. Till now. Hello. Mom's voice called faintly from outside. Familiar. Completely unaware that my entire world was collapsing behind a closed bedroom door. My chest tightened painfully. I couldn't let her see me like this. I couldn't. Not the skirt. Not the gloss. Not the truth I had hidden for years. She saw. Everything would change. I yanked open the closet, grabbing the first pair of pants I could find. My fingers fumbled with the waistband of the skirt, trying to pull it down quickly. But panic makes simple things impossible. The fabric caught, twisted, refused to move. Come on. Come on, I whispered desperately. The front door opened. Wood against wood. A soft thud that echoed through the house like thunder in my ears. She must still be in her room, Mom murmured to herself. The word sliced through me unexpectedly. Not because she meant anything by it, but because for one impossible second, it felt true. My hands finally dragged the skirt down my legs. Relief hit, sharp and immediate, until I realized something worse. Where do I hide it? Where do I hide all of this? Footsteps in the hallway now. Slow. Getting closer. Every step matched the pounding in my chest. I shoved the skirt under the pillow. Too obvious. Pulled it out. Dropped it behind the bed. Still visible. Think. A soft knock on my door. Thermal. Are you home? Mom asked. My throat closed completely. I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Because one terrible realization crashed over me like ice water. My lips were still shining in the mirror. If I spoke, she would open the door. If I stayed silent, she might open it anyway. Either way, the secret was seconds from being exposed. Another knock. Slightly louder. Sweetheart. Concern in her voice now. Close. My eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for escape where none existed. Too late. Bathroom? Too far. Time had run out. And in that suffocating frozen second, I understood something terrifying. This moment, this exact moment, was the line between the life I had always lived, and a life where nothing would ever be hidden again. My hand slowly reached for the doorknob. Not because I was ready, but because I had no choice left. The metal felt cold against my trembling fingers. Outside, Mom's shadow shifted beneath the doorframe. Waiting. One small movement, one simple turn, and everything would change forever. I swallowed hard. Tried to breathe. Tried to be the person she believed I was. But the taste of gloss was still warm on my lips. A silent truth I couldn't erase fast enough. The doorknob began to turn in my hand. And at that exact same moment, Mom tried to open the door from the other side. The doorknob moved. Not fast. Not violent. Just a slow, quiet turn, like the world itself was holding its breath. My hand was still wrapped around the metal from the inside. Mom's hand was pushing from the outside. For one suspended second, we were connected by a secret she didn't know existed. Why is the door locked? She asked softly. No anger. No suspicion. Just simple confusion. And somehow, that made it worse. Because anger I could survive. Suspicion I could fight. But kindness shattered me. I was changing, I forced out, my voice tight and unfamiliar. The words scraped against the gloss still clinging to my lips. I felt exposed even though she couldn't see me yet. A pause followed. Small. Ordinary. But inside my chest it stretched into forever. Oh, Mom said gently. Hey. I'll wait. Relief crashed into me so suddenly my knees almost gave out. She was waiting. Waiting meant time. And time meant escape. I moved fast. Too fast. Grabbing the skirt from behind the bed and shoving it deep into the bottom drawer beneath old notebooks and tangled cables. My hands shook so violently the drawer almost slipped from my grip. Breathe. Just breathe. Next, the mirror. The gloss. Proof. I wiped my lips with the back of my sleeve once, twice, again harder until the skin felt raw. When I looked up, a faint shine was still there. Panic surged back instantly. Are you okay in there? Mom asked through the door, concern creeping into her voice. Every second of silence was becoming suspicious. I'm fine. I answered too quickly. Too high. Too nervous. Not normal. Another pause. Longer this time. And in that silence, a terrible thought crept in. What if she already knows? My eyes drifted to the pillow. A tiny thread of black fabric, almost invisible, was peeking out from underneath. My heart stopped. Had that been there the whole time? How did I miss it? I lunged forward, yanking the thread free and stuffing it into my pocket just as the doorknob rattled again. Not opening. Just testing. A gentle mother's instinct checking the truth behind my voice. Can I come in? She asked. 3 simple words. But they felt like the edge of a cliff. If I said yes, everything risked exposure. If I said no, she'd worry. And worry leads to questions. Questions lead to truth. There was no safe answer anymore. My throat tightened. Just a second. The lie sounded thin even to me. Silence returned. But this silence was different. Heavier. Watching. I looked around my room desperately, searching for anything out of place. Drawer closed. Mirror normal. Clothes normal enough. But something still felt wrong. Something invisible. Then I realized. My heartbeat was too loud. What if she could hear it? What if she could feel the fear through the door like mothers somehow do? Footsteps shifted outside. Not leaving. Just adjusting her weight. Waiting patiently. Trusting me. That trust pressed against my chest harder than any fear of being caught. Because the real terror wasn't discovery. It was disappointing her. I made tea, she said softly. Come drink before it gets cold. Normal words. Normal life. Standing only inches away from the truth that could break both of us. Okay, I whispered. But I didn't move. Couldn't move. Because another realization struck. What if she notices something small? Redness on my lips. Shaking hands. Eyes avoiding hers. Mothers see everything. My gaze drifted slowly toward the mirror one last time. For a brief second. I didn't see fear. I saw her. Not fully formed. Not understood. But present. The version of me that only existed in silence and locked doors. And the most terrifying thought of all rose quietly inside my chest. What if getting caught isn't the worst thing that could happen? A sudden knock at the front gate shattered the moment. Unexpected. Mom's footsteps shifted in surprise. Were you expecting someone? She called through the door. No, I answered automatically. But dread was already crawling up my spine. Because almost no one visited us unannounced. Almost never. She walked away from my door toward the entrance. Each step created distance. And with distance came a fragile, temporary safety. I should have felt relieved. A strange disappointment flickered inside me. The front door opened. Muffled voices. Too quiet to understand. But one sound cut through clearly. A familiar female laugh. My blood turned cold. No. It couldn't be. Not now. Not today. Mom's voice floated down the hallway, warm with surprise. Mia? You didn't say you were coming. The world stopped. Completely. Violently. Irreversibly. Mia here? At my house. Without warning. I wanted to surprise him, Mia said lightly. Is he home? Every word felt like the ground disappearing beneath my feet. Because my room, my secret, my almost exposed truth, was only a few steps away from both of them now. Mom's footsteps turned back toward the hallway. Toward me. Toward the door I hadn't opened yet. He's changing, she told Mia gently. I'll call him. Panic exploded through my chest worse than before. Mom finding out was one nightmare. But Mia finding out, that was something deeper. Sharper. More final. Because losing a mother's image hurts. But losing the person you love can destroy you completely. Footsteps approached again. 2 sets this time. Stopping right outside my door. So close I could almost feel their presence through the wood. Mom knocked softly. Sweetheart, she said, Mia is here to see you. Silence swallowed the hallway. Inside my room, my secret pressed against my ribs like it wanted to escape on its own. Outside my door stood the 2 people whose opinions mattered most. Waiting. Trusting. Only seconds away from seeing the truth I had hidden for years. My hand slowly reached for the doorknob again. Shaking harder than before. Because this time, opening the door wouldn't just change my life. It could change all of ours. And just as my fingers touched the metal, Mia spoke through the door, her voice suddenly quiet, different, almost knowing. Hey, why is your door locked? My heart stopped. Because something in her tone told me a terrifying possibility. She wasn't surprised. And if Mia already suspected the truth, then opening this door might not be the beginning of exposure. But the moment everything I thought was hidden finally came into the light. My fingers rested on the doorknob, but I couldn't turn it. Not yet. Because Mia's voice, soft, careful, almost trembling, kept echoing in my head. She didn't sound confused. She didn't sound curious. She sounded like someone who was already prepared for the answer. Are you okay? She asked gently through the door. No jokes. No playful teasing like usual. Just quiet concern. And somehow, that hurt more than fear. Because concern means she sensed something long before this moment. Maybe in the way I avoided certain conversations. Maybe in the way I changed the subject when she talked about the future. Maybe in the tiny hesitations I thought no one could see. But Mia always noticed small things. That's what made loving her feel safe. And terrifying at the same time. "I'm fine," I whispered. The lie felt fragile. Paper thin. One small push, and it would tear open. Silence filled the hallway again. Heavy. Waiting. I could picture them standing there. Mom with patient kindness in her eyes. Mia with that searching expression she wore whenever she felt the truth hiding nearby. Two different kinds of love. Both only inches away. Both about to collide with the secret I'd buried for years. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure they could hear it through the door. What happens after this? That question kept repeating in my mind like an alarm I couldn't shut off. If I open the door, everything changes. If I don't, everything still changes. There was no version of this moment where life stayed the same. I looked around my room one last time. The mirror. The drawer. The ordinary bed and walls that had protected my secret for so long. This space had been my hiding place, but also my prison. Because every secret needs darkness to survive. And darkness always asks for a price. Maybe this was the moment the price had to be paid. Outside, Mom spoke softly. "Sweetheart, open the door. You're worrying me." Her voice carried something new now. Not suspicion. Not anger. Fear. And hearing fear in her voice because of me twisted something deep inside my chest. I never wanted to hurt her. Never wanted to disappoint her. All I ever wanted was a little space to understand myself. But secrets don't stay small forever. Eventually they demand to be seen. My grip tightened on the doorknob. Cold metal. Warm shaking fingers. One simple turn separated before and after. "Mia," Mom murmured quietly, thinking I couldn't hear. "Maybe give him a minute." "It's okay," Mia replied just as softly. "I think he's scared." The words pierced straight through me. Because she was right. Not scared of getting caught. Not scared of punishment. I was scared of losing them. Scared that the moment this door opened, their faces would change forever. And once someone looks at you differently, you can never go back to the way things were. A memory flashed suddenly in my mind. Mia laughing in the rain. Mom placing a warm cup of tea beside me during late-night work. Small, ordinary moments that felt safe, permanent, unbreakable. But nothing is truly unbreakable when truth is still hiding in the dark. My breathing slowed. Not calm, just clear. Because for the first time a different question appeared. What if hiding is what destroys everything, not the truth itself? Tears burned behind my eyes before I even realized they were forming. I wiped them away quickly. If I opened the door crying, they'd panic. Ask more questions. Everything would spiral faster. I needed to choose this moment carefully. Needed to decide which version of my life I was stepping into. "Please," Mom said softly, "just open the door." 3 seconds passed. Then 4. Then I finally moved. Slowly, carefully, like the air itself might shatter if I went too fast. The doorknob began to turn. A tiny click echoed in the quiet room, the quietest sound in the world. And somehow the loudest. The door opened 1 inch. Light from the hallway slipped inside, thin and fragile. I could see only a small piece of them. Mom's hand near her chest. Mia's fingers tightly wrapped together. Both waiting. Both afraid in their own way. I should have opened it wider. Should have spoken. Explained. Done something. But my body froze again. Because in that narrow strip of light, I saw Mia's eyes. And they weren't shocked. They weren't confused. They were gentle. Like she had already guessed a truth I was still struggling to say out loud. My voice trembled in the darkness behind the door. "Mia, if I tell you something, everything might change." Her answer came without hesitation. Soft. Certain. Unbelievably calm. "Maybe," she said. "But hiding is already changing everything, isn't it?" The words settled into the silence between us. Heavy. Honest. Impossible to ignore. My hand pushed the door a little further open. Just enough for the light to reach my face. Just enough for them to finally see me. Mom's breath caught. Mia didn't move. And in that suspended, fragile second, right before anyone spoke, Right before the truth fully stepped into the light, something unexpected happened. The hallway lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. A sharp sound echoed from somewhere in the house, like a fuse snapping, or a door slamming far away. Mom gasped. Mia whispered my name. And I stood there half hidden between shadow and light, heart racing again for a completely different reason. Because this darkness felt less like an accident, and more like the beginning of something none of us were prepared for.